All right, welcome. This is Julie with Balance Life with Julie, regenerative health practitioner, holistic and nutritionist. Let me just adjust my camera ever so slightly. Today, I want to talk about glyphosate. I've talked about glyphosate and its connection to thyroid issues in the past, but most recently, a couple of weeks ago, there was a Supreme Court decision 7-2 in favor of not regulating what is happening right now with glyphosate and Monsanto and Bayer and all of those things. So before I dive into any of that, I want to share with you that my book, Finding Light, is out. It is available on Amazon. And recently, Finding Light, the journal, this is a daily journal, morning and evening, that you can pick up. It is also available on Amazon. So if you go to the link below that goes to the book, Finding Light, you're going to also find the link to the journal. And so Finding Light, just to give you a little synopsis, Finding Light has tools, practices, modalities that I've used to get myself back on track in terms of my own personal health. And I have found so many times, you'll read a book and it has lots of great information, but you don't know how to implement it. And so that's why I created the journal, because the journal allows you to start to practice some of the things that I share in the book, like having a gratitude practice, being more mindful about what you're eating, moving your body on a daily and consistent basis. It's really, really important to reflect, to really look at, okay, how do I want to start my days? And at the end of the day, really reflecting back, okay, I had set an intention for this day. I had certain goals and things that I wanted to get done and implement. How did I do? Did I follow through on what I said I was going to do? What worked, what didn't work, and how can I do things differently? So yeah, you've got the journal, you got the book. This is actually a copy that I got for myself because I wanted to get like a draft of the journal before it went live. And so you won't see this black stripe on the actual journal. This is just because this copy is not intended for resale. But anyway, if you go to the book page, you're going to find the page, the info for the book as well as the journal. Highly recommend getting them together and starting to make those changes that are going to help you to feel better in your life, to thrive. And these are things that I wish I had known about like well over 20 years ago. A lot of the information that I put into the book are things that I've collected over time, tools and practices and just ways of approaching life and shifting my own mindset and creating like daily habits over time that have allowed me to not only reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, but have actually put me in a state where as I think about my own health journey and life journey, I would have to say that it just keeps getting better and better and better. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that so many of the tools and practices that I put into the book are things that I practice on a daily basis. And the journal was really created to help you to develop those habits. All right, so let's talk about glyphosate. I've been talking about glyphosate now for 7 years. If you're newer to my page and newer to my channel, I'm a regenerative health practitioner, holistic nutritionist, and I really stumbled into this work out of a necessity and a need to heal my own chronic health issues. I went to so many different types of practitioners, went to naturopaths and homeopaths, and tried all kinds of alternative therapies. And I was taking medication every single day for years and years. And I was told by multiple doctors and many other types of practitioners that because I had a hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's diagnosis, I would just have to learn to live with it, that there was nothing that I could do to actually support my body in healing and getting better. And that wasn't the case at all. I managed to reverse hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's over 6 years ago. I've been completely off all medications now since January of 2020. I am recording this video in July of 2026. So well over 6 years since I've been off all medications. And like I said, my health just keeps getting better and better and better. And I like to say that I'm actually in the biohacking phase of my life where I've really dialed in my nutrition, my hydration, my sleep, movement, all of these like daily habits and mindset habits. Now I really work, on my own personal health. I actually have brought in tools and practices that just kind of help to up level my health even more so. So um, but what got the ball rolling for me really in terms of like what became the turning point for my health was understanding the connection between the toxicity that is in the environment and the impact that it has on the human body. It is undeniable. We are all exposed to so many toxic chemicals on a daily basis. Like if you're not paying attention and you're not mindful of your food, and especially for women, if you're not mindful of your food and you're not mindful of, let's say, of the personal care products you're using, the makeup you're using, what you're putting in your hair, on your skin, your laundry detergent, your cleaning products, if you're not like literally not paying attention and you go to the store and you buy the major brands, what you may not realize is that you are exposing your body to hundreds, if not thousands, of chemicals on a daily basis. And those chemicals, many of them are cancer causing, some of them are disruptive to your endocrine system, which means your hormonal system. And there's so many women that are suffering from different kinds of issues related to their hormones. And more women are going into perimenopause and menopause really early, like I'm talking about in their 30s. And a lot of this has to do with the toxicity that is in our environment, that's in our food system. We are surrounded by it. I mean, people don't even realize that a lot of the clothing that they're buying, it's synthetic and has all kinds of chemicals in it. They're not connecting the dots. And so part of my mission with this page and with my channel and with all my social media is to really bring awareness and education and teach you what are the better solutions, because there are solutions. There is non-toxic clothing, there's non-toxic food, there's non-toxic beauty and skincare. I mean, I use a lot of those things myself because I don't want to be putting chemicals and toxic load onto my body. So today I want to speak to you about glyphosate. I've talked about glyphosate many times. And I can tell you that on my own individual health journey, when I learned about how toxic glyphosate is to the human body, and the fact that at that point in my journey, when I found out about glyphosate, it was March of 2019. I had been diagnosed with thyroid issues in, I want to say January of 2014. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. But if I really think back to my health journey, for most of my life, I had gut issues. I suffered from ongoing depression that would just kind of come in cycles and waves every few months. And then in September of 2012, after my husband passed away very suddenly from a heart attack, that's really when the scales just kind of tipped over for me health wise. And I mean, if you're new to my channel, you're new to my page, you're new to my information, I'm sure the fact that I can casually mention that I had a spouse die of a heart attack and not be upset about it or sound upset probably maybe seems a little bit odd, but I have done so much healing work around the around losing my husband suddenly that way. But one of the other things that happened was that I had not the best diet and lifestyle habits leading up to his passing. And when that happened, that traumatic event really triggered a whole bunch of other things in my body. And so in March of 2019, I had been trying for so many years, like from pretty much from January of 2014 to March of 2019, I had been trying for over 5 years to feel better in my body. I was depressed. I had put on close to almost 50 pounds on my body, and I had chronic joint pain. I suffered with depression. I didn't feel good. None of my clothes fit. I was really, really deeply unhappy with the state of my health. And by that point in time, I had gone back to school to become a holistic nutritionist. In fact, I had finished my training at that point, and I had made some dietary changes, but not, and those dietary changes allowed me to reduce the medications that I was on by a little bit. I was working very closely with my naturopath at that time. But that was it. I kind of hit a wall, and I didn't understand like why I couldn't seem to crack the code. Then I started learning about glyphosate and what that does in the human body and how it's used in the environment and how prevalent it is. And I have to say, like, I was pretty naive back then, right? I did not realize how much glyphosate was is being sprayed on our foods and what it does in the human body. So I'm going to share with you quickly how 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 it kind of got its approval, what it actually does in terms of our health. And then I want to touch on really quickly that there is also something that you can do about it. So, glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. If you're not familiar with Roundup, that is a herbicide that is used on crops, especially on grains. But here's the thing to understand about glyphosate, and glyphosate is actually has a patent as an antibiotic, but it's used as a herbicide. Now, if you've ever been sick and you've ever gone on a round of antibiotics, you're usually told to take whatever antibiotic for maybe 10 days, possibly 2 weeks, depending on what it is. And then you're supposed to stop taking it. The reason is that antibiotics are anti-life, meaning that they don't just destroy the bad microbes in your gut. They go after everything. And so if you really allow yourself to think about it, there is a huge, huge problem with allowing something that is patented as an antibiotic to be used as a herbicide 24/7, year round, all over the globe, because none of us are supposed to be ingesting an antibiotic at all times. Now, glyphosate is also water soluble. We are on a water planet. We ourselves are mostly water. So once you unleash a water soluble antibiotic into the environment, you have no control over it. You cannot stop it from going places. It will go wherever there is water. So it goes up into the atmosphere, it comes down into the rain, back down into onto the earth and into the groundwater systems through rain, through snow. It can go wherever it wants to on the globe. So wherever, once it gets pulled up into the cloud system, it'll go wherever clouds go. And so you really have no control over it. It doesn't care about boundaries, doesn't care about borders. It's going to go wherever. Now, what it does in the soils when glyphosate and Roundup are sprayed onto the soils, it destroys the earthworm population. It destroys the microbes in the soil, which affects the type of nutrients or lack of nutrients in the soil. So that's the first thing. What it does on the plants that it's sprayed on is it disrupts the amino acid profile of the plant, known as the shikimate or the shikame pathway, depending on, some people pronounce it one way, some people pronounce it the other. It doesn't matter. Either way, it just disrupts the amino acid profile of the plants. And so this is why GMO foods are bad, because your body cannot recognize a plant that doesn't have its complete amino acid profile. It's been tampered with. It's foreign to the body. The body understands nature. Your body doesn't understand things that have been manipulated in that way, whether it's in a lab or whether it's out on the field, right? It's foreign information to the body. And so the body doesn't know what to do with it, right? And so what happens within the body is when you're eating GMO foods or you're ingesting glyphosate, whether you're breathing it in, because all of us are breathing in glyphosate because there's a little bit of glyphosate in every single breath we take on this planet. That's the danger of spraying a toxic herbicide that is actually an antibiotic into the environment and just letting it wreak havoc everywhere. So we're breathing it in. It's coming into our body through our skin because remember, it's water soluble. And if you're not mindful of where you're getting your foods, where you're getting your water, it's also coming in through the foods that you're eating. And so it's compounding in the body, right? It's accumulating in the body. Now, what it does in our body is it actually takes apart the tight junctions of the gut. So there's this thin layer of cells that is between our GI system and our immune system. So that starts to come apart. And that thin layer of cells that's separating our GI system from the rest of our body also starts to come apart. And that's what's known as leaky gut. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that when you're ingesting glyphosate, whether you're breathing it in, whether it's coming into your body through your skin or your food or your water, it doesn't matter. What it does is it actually destroys your gut microbiome, and that is bad, right? That's what antibiotics do. Antibiotics destroy microbes in the gut. And we need, we have different kinds of microbes. We have quote unquote good microbes. We have quote unquote bad microbes, but we are more microbe than we are human. And we rely on the microbes to help break down our food, to create different types of neurotransmitters. And so when our gut microbiome is impacted, it's going to affect the way that our body functions. It's going to affect serotonin, like 70 to 80% of the serotonin in your body, which helps regulate your mood, is actually made in your gut. But if your gut is damaged, that production most likely isn't happening. 40% of the dopamine in your body is also made in your gut. So if your gut is compromised, it's going to compromise all kinds of things. It's going to compromise the communication between your gut and your brain. And really, it is your gut that is responsible and does a majority of the communication between your brain or your gut and your brain. It's like 9 signals go from your gut to your brain, and only 1 signal comes from your brain back down to your gut. So that's disrupted. Now, the way that our digestive system is designed is it's supposed to be a closed system. It is a system within a system, right? So from mouth to butt, everything is supposed to stay contained. We eat our food, and whatever nutrients are in our food are supposed to be absorbed into our body through our small intestine. Now, when we have a condition like leaky gut, by the way, glyphosate is not the only thing that causes leaky gut. Um, Pharmaceutical use also contributes to leaky gut. So does alcohol. And so if you're, ingesting alcohol on a regular basis and you're taking different types of pharmaceuticals and you're exposed to glyphosate, it's like problem on top of problem on top of problem, inevitably leaky gut ensues. And so what happens with leaky gut is that the contents that are supposed to be expelled out of your body, they could be pathogens, parasites, undigested food particles, those things, they're not expelled out of your body. They start to spill into the rest of your body because of that gut permeability that's not supposed to be there. And so over time, what happens is you can have like pathogens and parasites settling into different tissues in the body. You can have, and that is part of what triggers the autoimmune response in the body. And if you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense that our body would just attack itself out of nowhere, out of the blue. It really has to do with the fact that there's this thing called leaky gut. And once that happens and those pathogens and parasites and food particles start drifting into other parts of your body, inevitably what ends up happening is that you may have those things settling into places they shouldn't, and the body knows that, and so your body will go after whatever's not supposed to be there and start attacking those tissues. So it could be like, for myself, it had to do with my thyroid, right? And so that created this autoimmune response, which led to Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. And so, one of the things that I learned when I started researching about glyphosate is that it is so, so damaging to our body, and we're all exposed to it, low doses of it 24/7 for most of us since the time we were born, because Roundup started to be used heavily in the food system in the late 70s, early 80s. And so, if you were a kid in the 80s, and especially if you grew up near farm country, chances are that you were exposed to quite a bit of it. I know I myself was exposed to it my entire life because I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, the prairies. What's in the prairies? Farming, lots and lots and lots of farming. And so, the good news is, there is good news, right? The good news is, when I started researching about what glyphosate does in the body, I asked one kind of basic question, which is like, okay, I've been exposed to this toxic chemical that most likely is connected to part of the reason why I have thyroid issues. Now, the thing is, when it comes to chronic health issues, it's never one thing that creates the issue. It's usually a combination of factors. I like to think of it as kind of like a perfect storm, right? And so, one thing in isolation never creates the imbalance or the chronic health issue. It's usually a whole bunch of different factors. Stress is always an underlying factor to all chronic illness, right? Because stress creates inflammation in the body. That inflammation creates imbalance. So, and can create all kinds of ways that, creating hormonal disruption and whatnot. So it's always like the foundation of stress, poor diet, not sleeping, trauma, chemical and heavy metal toxicity. So what happens is, one thing stacks on top of the other, and it creates a huge imbalance, which inevitably, generally for most people, and I will say this for myself, I just didn't feel good for a really long time. I didn't understand why. Like, as a teenager, I never really felt great. I was like constantly exhausted and tired, all through all through my 20s, and needing like lots and lots of coffee, like needing coffee to wake myself up, needing alcohol to calm myself down and just kind of take the edge, quote unquote, the edge off. And so, um understanding what the role that glyphosate was playing, obviously, in my thyroid issues, I asked, okay, so how can I get this toxic chemical out of my body? What does that look like? And so I found out that there is like a clinically tested, third party validated way to remove glyphosate from the body and repair the damage to the gut. And so that's what I ended up doing, actually, right around this time in 2019. July 2019 was when I learned about a program that not only improves the quality of the food, meaning it gets rid of GMO foods and allows you to improve the quality of nutrients going into your body, but more importantly, it works on repairing the damage to the gut and supporting and allowing the body to heal itself, because the body is self-healing, it's self-regulating, it's self-regenerating. But the problem is that we live in a modern food system and just a modern environment that is so unnatural, so toxic, that it's no wonder that so many people have, like, the stats on thyroid issues is 1 in 8 women have thyroid issues. Most people that have thyroid problems, whether it's hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, whether someone has the autoimmune component, which is Hashimoto's if you have hypothyroidism, and Graves if you have hyperthyroidism, most people don't actually they actually go through their life undiagnosed. They just don't understand what's happening with their body, and they think it's just aging or that's what happens. But that's what happens when we spend our entire life eating foods that are not natural, being completely inundated with toxic chemicals 24/7 everywhere you turn, and really not practicing and taking care of practicing healthy habits and taking care of our body. I would think of it this way. It's like if you had like a high-end sports car or like some kind of a luxury car and you put the wrong fuel in it and you didn't take care of it and you just treated it terribly, it would only be a matter of time before the car would start to break down. And so it's the same thing with the human body. Most people, they don't know how to take care of their body. The people around them don't know how to take care of their health either. So it's like literally a situation of where the blind is leading the blind, and inevitably people end up getting sick and having all kinds of issues, chronic health issues, and they think that's just a sign of getting older and that's how it happens. And that's not true. It's like if you change your diet and your lifestyle habits, you start taking care of yourself. Here's the miracle of the human body is that as soon as you start to upgrade your habits and you start to implement them on a regular basis, your body actually responds very quickly. Like when I have people start to make these dietary changes, they usually tell me within a few days they start to feel better. Now, does it mean that everything is resolved? No, it really depends on what kind of chronic health issue someone has and how long they've had it. But for most people, it's that as long as they keep putting one foot in front of the other, they keep doing the better habits around diet and lifestyle, inevitably their body continues to heal itself. And so it's understanding that unfortunately we've all been schooled improperly, incorrectly. So of course that's why so many people have chronic health issues. I regularly work with women that come to me not with one chronic health issue, but usually 4 to 5 very, very serious ones. And oftentimes it's not one autoimmune condition, it's generally multiple autoimmune conditions. And that's not because there's their body is broken. It's because what they've been doing in terms of their diet and their lifestyle isn't what they're supposed to be doing. And so the body is just giving different symptoms and different ways of the body is communicating in its way through symptomology and explaining that, oh my goodness, like what you're doing isn't proper. But unfortunately, because there's also in the health space, and I know this because I went to multiple naturopaths, multiple doctors, multiple homeopaths, I worked with different kinds of practitioners, none of whom could actually help me. And I tried with the medical side, it was all the different pharmaceuticals, and with the natural side, it was supplements and other interventions, but none of them helped me get better because none of them addressed the root. And unfortunately, in the health space, there's a lot of improper education. I know. I mean, I studied holistic nutrition. I went to different schools, and I can assure you that a lot of those places, none of them really addressed root cause healing. And so that's how I ended up in regenerative health, is that I was really interested and focused on addressing the root of the issue. And so what the root of the issue really looks like is overhauling diet, overhauling lifestyle, addressing chemical and heavy metal toxicity, addressing parasites, and really giving the body an opportunity to restore its homeostasis, its balance. And that can take time. It can take several months, or it can, even depending on the person, potentially take longer than that. So for myself, like I went on a 6-month protocol. By the end of the 6 months, I was off the thyroid medications. So officially in January 2020, I went off all medications, haven't been on any medications ever since. And so that initial protocol took me about 6 months. And there are things that I'm continuing to work on. Like, I know that there are certain imbalances within my lymph system that I'm still working on. So usually I'll do like 1 to 2 very intensive protocols a year. And it just has to do with the fact, like, some of it is historically everything that's built up in my body since I was born, right? We all live in such a toxic environment. And then a lot of it is stuff that I'm exposed to, right? Because we don't live in a bubble. We live in an environment where we're exposed to so much, and we don't even see what we're exposed to, because a lot of the chemicals and the toxins, they're like so tiny. We're breathing in microplastics, but we don't know that we're breathing in microplastics, but we are, right? And so it's understanding the assault that is happening on the body on a regular basis, and then just making that commitment to eating foods that our body is naturally designed to eat, to taking care of ourselves and prioritizing movement and sleep and all of those foundations. So anyway, 2 weeks ago, there was a decision that came out from the U.S. Supreme Court, 7-2, and they basically decided that Monsanto and the parent company Bayer, because Monsanto is now owned by Bayer, that they're not criminally liable for the damage that glyphosate exposure does to the people who are exposed to it, which is everyone. We're all exposed to glyphosate. And so you can't sue them, right? They're not going to be held criminally liable, which is disappointing. But when you understand how the food system works and how industry works, it's absolutely not surprising. And the fact of the matter is that the Monsanto had several thousand lawsuits against them, and quite a few they had been found guilty and were supposed to give out like literally tens of millions of dollars in settlements. But that was never going to happen because you know there's just too much money at play. There's too much money on the table. And so in the people versus poison, the poison wins. But here's the thing: you can get glyphosate out of your body. You can make better decisions around your food. And even if Monsanto or Bayer, let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, even if they're held criminally liable and you can sue them, it doesn't do anything for the fact that you're still breathing in glyphosate, right? It, you still have to get it out of your body, right? It's so prevalent in the environment that suing the company isn't going to do anything for your health. You got to get it out of your body. I mean, for myself, once I realized that, I went on that protocol, July of 2019, and I still take something every single day to get glyphosate out of my body. Not just glyphosate, but also other toxic chemicals and heavy metals. And it helps support my gut. I drink my green drink every day, which removes microplastics from my body. It's really a matter of being proactive and not relying on the government or three-letter agencies to take care of you. You need to take control of your own personal health and look for the solutions, because I guarantee you, for every single problem that is out there, there is a solution, and especially on the health side. That's why I create the content that I create. That's why I work with what I work with, because I'm interested in sharing the solutions with people. I mean, it took me 6 long years of really trying different things and failing at my health to find the thing that actually works. And thankfully, I did find the thing that works. And so you can go to my website if you're interested in learning more about my programs. I have a group program called Elevate that walks you through step by step of how you can actually support healing within your body. Everything from making the dietary changes to really becoming more conscious of what you're putting on your skin, what you're using in your household, and how to make better daily decisions around your own personal health and the health of your family. So you can check out Elevate. Again, if you haven't picked up my book, pick up the book. You can also get the journal and start implementing the changes that I suggest in the book. Aside from that, please feel free to share this video with anyone you think could really benefit from this information. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. I would love, 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 and appreciate it so much if you do. And of course, if you have any questions, please put your questions below this video. I love responding to questions. It's one of my favorites. Whenever I see that there's a comment or questions on the content, I'm always so excited and happy to answer. So thank you for being a part of my online community. Go get the book, go get the journal, check out my website, check out Elevate. And if you know anybody who really, really needs to hear this information, and especially if they are dealing with thyroid issues, please share my information with them, because I remember when I was struggling with thyroid issues, I was so desperate for answers and I really wanted to feel better in my body. So share this content with them, and I will see you in the next live. All right, bye for now.